Make the case on the positive to me for why Nick Sirianni should stay.
Well, the case is the resume. The case is that he brought you to the playoffs 3 years in a row, double-digit wins the past 2 years, the Super Bowl 2 seasons ago, that this year, things, he had a bad 2 months. And are you going to have franchise upheaval based on 2 months? And that there are mitigating factors at play here. Perhaps Jalen was dealing with an injury that affected him in a way beyond, what we know. Defensive personnel, you can kind of point maybe to how the roster was assembled there. But the other thing that I know this is a conversation maybe for the middle of the show, but we should include it now, is Jalen Hurts has a lot of power and sway in this organization.
This is my next question.
And Jalen was given an opportunity publicly to back his coach. And
set the scene.
Yeah, so press conference after the game, and
like an hour later.
Yep, everyone's there, and this question is coming, right? It's not the first question, but the question is coming because in the locker room they just got it. Sirianni just got it. It was the talk of the broadcast. It was the talk of the week.
It is like offensive to the PR staff who work hard to prepare the guys who have to go up for press conferences for the questions they're going to get to pretend as if you didn't know this question was coming.
And by the way, his answer made it seem like it was one of those things that he had thought about ahead of time. And that, because he was asked, do you want Nick to be back? And he said he didn't know Nick was going anywhere, right? And then,
which is also again not even the doesn't make sense as an
there
answer.
Was a follow-up there too, that what's your confidence that Nick can fix this? He says he's confident in all his players and coaches, which is not going to bat for Nick the way other people are. Now you can say, as I've said with Jalen in the past, that he treats press conferences a certain way, he treats the media a certain way. It's similar to the conversation that we had when AJ stood up for Nick, and Jalen didn't necessarily have the same thing. And, we said he can say that you don't owe it to the media. And I would agree. You don't owe it to the media, but you owe it to Nick. And maybe the same thing last night. If you believe in Nick, you can say, right, that's not my decision to make. There's so many ways to answer it. That's not my decision to make, but, he's been my only head coach, we've done great things together over the past 3 years. I believe in him. Or you can do what Dak Prescott did with Mike McCarthy, which is to say, like, if you're blaming him, blame me too. And that, I think it's a crazy discussion, but that's, I know it's a business. As Lane Johnson said by his locker yesterday, like, it's a wild league and things happen and changes are going to be made. There's so many, Hassan Reddick said that this isn't all on Nick, and that you can't say during the good times and then just try to fire him during the bad times. And then the next breath he said, but that's beyond my pay grade, right? Like there's ways of supporting your coach without, with kind of leaving that wiggle room. But also, you also know you're the franchise quarterback. Your words matter. And so you've said this more eloquently than I did, and in most things you say more eloquently than I do.
I don't agree with that.
But that in the absence of like Jalen's voice, things get assigned to him, right? And that if Jalen's just going to get up there and say, I didn't know he was going anywhere, and I have confidence in everybody. Well, then clearly on Good Morning Football in there, they're going to talk about that answer, and the Philadelphia Inquirer, that it's going to be the main story. Like, you had a chance to go to bat for your coach, and I imagine that Jeffrey Lurie is going to have a conversation with Jalen Hurts about this because Jalen is the franchise quarterback.
It honestly, it felt like the death knell for Sirianni because it is impossible to take that answer as anything other than a lack of endorsement for the head coach. He there, as you said, there are so many ways he could have tried to protect Nick, even if he didn't really believe that, right? And the truth is that Jalen Hurts is the most important person in the organization aside from Jeffrey Lurie right now. He is not going anywhere. That is the contract he signed. And whether there is buyer's remorse there from the franchise or not, they have to move forward with trying to get the best out of Jalen Hurts. And if the relationship between Hurts and Sirianni is to that point, then I don't know if there is a positive case to bringing Nick Sirianni back. Now, maybe it's fixable. People have tension at work all the time, and they can work through it and still be productive. But like, I'm trying to think of, okay, take a step back. Maybe Nick Sirianni is burned out from the past 2 years. Like last year was a wild ride. There was no offseason. He had to, hustle to get his staff filled and try to, bring more energy to replace what Steichen left and maybe get a little bit more involved on the defense because he didn't have Jonathan Gannon, and he just is out of time. We've talked about his sleep habits, right? Like I think it's a real factor.
I can't rip him for that though.
But if Jalen Hurts is already like seeding out through his camp that he is unhappy with the offense, and Jeffrey Lurie has to do what is best for like making this offense good surrounding Jalen Hurts, I think it's unfortunate, but I think he probably does have to move.
We all silly like the mayor.